Hey YouTube, it's ShryphonX here. Today we're going to be talking about Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo Chapter 14. Like and subscribe for more content. Maru vs. Tsurugi begins. Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo Chapter 14. This chapter has 21 pages, including the color page and a bonus page at the end. Editor's note: struggle against fate before your love changes into hate. This is the first of a consecutive set of color pages, where we see the inverse of the color page for Chapter 7. The Robbed, as we see Yuka in the background while Cross holds the mole or his late father protected until his death. This represents how both are fighting for their respective dignities. Yuka seeking to live a fulfilling life, even with death looming, and Cross now having a change of heart and seeking peace. The chapter begins with Mino accompanying Mayaguni, the lady with pigtails, when Mino worries about Yuka's decision, but Mayaguni reminds Mino this was Yuka's personal decision. Mayaguni also remarks that the weapons that the Self-Defense Force of Japan and the United States military will not be enough against Ebura, on top of such a request for armaments breaching the Treaty of Mutual Cooperation and Security between the United States and Japan. Mino wonders if nuclear weapons can work against Ebura. Mayaguni reminds him that no country wants to take on the stigma of dropping nukes onto Japan. It has been 142 years since Hiroshima and Nagasaki. However, Mayaguni remarks that Japan is a country that has the potential to possess nuclear weapons. Mino knows this, saying that even if they declare publicly otherwise, Japan does have the resources and technology to develop nuclear weapons, leading to Mayaguni to conclude with the mantra that if no other nation can help, Japan will be on their own, showing how much the world has despised Japan. On top of World War II, we also the sorcerer trafficking situation and Rumelian outrage against Jujutsu sorcerers. An ordinary rock? Atop an abandoned building, as Maru wonders over the fate of his brother Cross. He asks himself where his problems talking to Cross began. This is a continuation of Chapter 9, where the brothers were still very young and talked about the stone their father had. The boys examine it, recalling their father's last words about cherishing it to the very end, but then Maru throws the rock and smashes it in front of Cross, screaming that their father died to protect something like this and had lost sight of his role as a warrior. And he tells Cross to forget about their father now, as if smashing the stone was an act of erasing the link between them and their failure of a parent. However, this was not some random outburst from Child. As it turns out, their father died to hide the secret of Mole from the Discunt, to such an extent that he had to pretend that he held an actual mole or for his dear life, even in front of his children and village, so that no one would know of where the mole or went. In other words, Maru's father lost his life while holding a fake stone, and that felt dishonorable. If you recall, mole, or is a type of stone that can transform cursed energy into all kinds of power. Dura's theory is that each or holds the consciousness of Discunt and Remelians, and as such their memories live on in the mole, or and thus are treated as sacred relics. This sounds like cursed objects on Earth. Items or remains that contain the essence of a sorcerer and hold cursed energy. The timing is relevant because in Chapter 12, in Human Makio, Maru learns about the usage of cursed objects in maintaining barriers and could see the similarities between Mul and cursed objects, and now we see that they follow the same principle as the Kalyan, alike but from a fundamentally different metaphysical position. While both beings have a link to the Rumelian third eye, Kalyans are physical beings with bodies that stay even after death, while cursed spirits are made up of pure negative energy that will vanish upon death. Meanwhile, cursed objects are the distinct physical remains of sorcerers themselves, as with the case of Ryaman Sukuna's fingers, or the prison realm being made out of the body of the real-life monk Genshin, meaning each cursed object is unique and can also be used in the reincarnation of a sorcerer. However, Mul or all look the same regardless of whose consciousness lies within that rock, and while possessing the potential to reincarnate and the natural ability to empower jujutsu techniques. Mul, or is still hard to distinguish from any rock unless imbued by Rololuka or cursed energy. This is why the mothership non-axe resembles a gravestone slab, as it is a spaceship made from the remains of the dead. However, it seems that this could explain why both Dura and Maru and Cross father show caution and reverence. In Chapter 8, Dura tells the boys not to touch certain rocks, which we learn in the next chapter are the Mul Oregon. It is not just because of their rarity or for Dura to maintain the truth a secret, but because those are essentially the remnants of Dura's kin and ancestors whose cursed energy lives on. Maru's act is a symbolic representation of Maru rejecting his father and hating how his obsession with this rock led to his death, a desire to cut the boys off from that painful, and more importantly, shameful past. Maru verbally expressed his true feelings to Cross, that their father died because of this obsession and he is angry to have lost him, and destroying the heirloom was their way to move on from his death. Now Maru thinks back to the time he stopped Cross from going after Dabura after the latter killed Dura. Maru thinks of how Cross and Dabura were much kinder while he, deep down, held to his obsession to be a Romelian warrior, being stubborn and inflexible, just like how his father's obsession with Mul killed him. This is a bit similar to Eren Yeager, who had a hidden motivation behind his seemingly selfless desire to protect his people, and was a hypocrite attempting to cancel or reject the dark parts of himself throughout his life. Eren also had an inferiority complex over his flaws and weaknesses as a human being that evolved into immense self-hatred, whereas he held his softer, kinder best friend Armin to such a degree that he considered Armin the true hero and not himself, the one with the power of the Attack Titan. Maru only wanted to protect his younger brother and hide the truth of their father's dishonor. Now, after witnessing Cross on the brink of death, Maru wishes to speak to Cross and apologize. The duel of brothers, we now have the confirmed date of the duel between Dabura and Yuka Okatsu. January 14th, 2087. Tsurugi remarks something is off about the story of the Cimmerians, as even though their social structure is different from modern humans, the two races have too many similarities to be ignored. The Deskunt are organized as a centralized state, so Tsurugi wonders if the Romelians got pushed into a lower class. This leaves Tsurugi puzzled regarding the construction of the spaceship non-axe, which has an engine powered by cursed energy. If the Romelians were impoverished, how would 50,000 Romelians be able to fly such advanced equipment? And if they did build the ship, they would have needed a lot of time they would not have had since the Romelians spent decades building canals. An irregular event occurred to have enabled the Romelians, who had no technology for spaceflight, to reach Earth to this point, and Tsurugi concludes that event is Maru and Cross. Tsurugi spots Maru just as he makes this conclusion in his head. Tsurugi concludes that non-axe is made entirely of Mul, and that there are not only reacts to the cursed energy of ordinary warriors or sorcerers from Rumel, but the techniques of a sorcerer. The only way a floating rock could bring 50,000 Romelians to a specific planet like Earth was through Maru's cursed technique, Harmony, which was first revealed in Chapter 1. Special Grade Incident. Maru clarifies that ordinary Mul would not have been enough to create non-axe, but the rocks Dura found were exceptionally high purity. In a way, this Mul, are special grade cursed objects like Ryaman Sukuna's fingers or Prison Realm, albeit with the same function of resonating with any sorcerer's techniques. And non-axe could only become a spaceship because of the harmony technique that had been awakened by the boys when Dabura led them to the Mul spot. Furthermore, harmony is both Maru and Cross technique, which furthers the concept in Jujutsu Kaisen that twins are two halves of the same being, which is tied to Maki and Mai and Sukuna and his twin. Sukuna's twin brother, who reincarnated into Yuji Itadori's grandfather Waisuk, also has the Shrine in Nate technique, which is how Yuji was able to his variation of dismantle that targeted the soul of objects rather than physical matter like Sukuna did. Tsurugi remarks that he took his time looking for Maru because he needed one final conversation with him. Tsurugi figures out that harmony was what allowed Maru to locate Tsurugi when he got taken by the human trafficker in the first chapter, and also enabled him the ability to speak Japanese. This explains the very first scene of the sequel, as both Cross and Maru were able to locate Earth through harmony. If you may recall Maru's simple and obviously restricted explanation to Yuka, harmony is a technique that allows Maru to find his equal. Not only did Maru apply this technique by using Yuka as a dowsing rod to find Tsurugi, but also connect with the Mall, or with a created non-axe to guide the ship toward a planet with similar conditions like Earth. And it so happened that Earth had similar abilities to the Sumerians, the exact conditions to enable the Remelians, who lacked any spaceship technology, to fly a long way from home. This leads Tsurugi to make the request for all the Sumerians to leave Earth. Maru refuses, saying that all the Sumerians know about the Kalyan. Of note, the kanji used is for cursed spirit, but the furigana is Kalyan, emphasizing that similarity in terms of Sumerian understanding. Tsurugi asks if Maru knew about Dabura and Yuka's duel, with Maru quickly telling Tsurugi to make Yuka withdraw from the duel immediately, as she stands no chance, though regardless, the outcome will be the same, as Yuka will die soon. Tsurugi has already found out about Yuka's cancer and laments how he was a fool not to notice his sister's condition. Tsurugi explains that Earth's sorcerers have a last resort, the binding vow. Binding vows can strengthen a person's cursed energy reserves and cursed techniques in exchange for a restriction applied to the self, a binding vow to oneself. Maru remarks that even a binding vow will not be enough against Dabura. Tsurugi remarks that Yuka would rather die doing something for someone else, and that Yuka has always been searching for a place to better life on. As her brother, Tsurugi wants Yuka to live her remaining 3 months to the fullest, and so he wants to stop the duel, even if it is against Yuka's wishes. Tsurugi draws his sword and insists the Sumerians leave Japan to prevent any more bloodshed. Maru notes that among the 50,000 Sumerians on board, majority are women and children. Even with the warriors helping them out, Maru and Cross took under 2 years to reach Earth after leaving Sumeria. During that journey into deep space, everyone has been frightened of the possibility that they could turn into dust in the deep abyss of space as they search in vain hope for a new place to stay. Maru notes that there is no evidence that a chance like this, a world like Earth, will ever come up again. In the final double page, we see Maru unsheath his own blade and prepare to duel Tsurugi. Editor's note: we can't go back anymore. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe for more content. ShryphonX out.